Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to present our project. My name's Dave Brooks. I'm from Carr Design. Today I'll be presenting our Bruce Street, Kensington project. It's an 8-level office building in the suburb of Kensington. Our clients came to us in 2019 and they are two siblings and they wanted a building that essentially read as one but could function as two separate buildings if they wish to manage or sell them off in the future independently. So it's located on the south side of Bruce Street. It's a predominantly industrial precinct and Melbourne City Council have designated this precinct for development in the future, and just before our clients purchased the site, a new planning scheme came out for that development. It's approximately 1,500 or 1,350 square metres site area, and it's located pretty close to the well-known Young Husbands historic warehouses. It overlooks predominantly single-storey warehouses, and this is the first of those such warehouse sites to be developed. So it was a case study in the new planning scheme, which was one of the challenges of developing the project as we work with Melbourne City Council on that, and it was the first to be assessed by the Green Factor tool, which Melbourne City Council implementing, and was ultimately successful. It's also very close to some really heavy infrastructure. It's the city link to the east. There's the multiple rail lines to the west, and to the south is the West Melbourne Terminal Station. So there was visual and acoustic relief from that infrastructure was a key to the initial design ethos for the project, to protect internal spaces and external spaces. In amongst all of this is the Moonee Ponds Creek. So until recently, the creek has obviously had very poor water quality and minimal aqua life and flow, and a recent improvement program slightly further upstream has worked to mitigate that, and so they've introduced litter traps and more wetlands, and the next stage of the program is to bring that further down to this area of the creek. In addition, there's recently been a cultural immersion trail which is introduced, and that really highlights the cultural and natural values of that waterway and celebrates a place that that is owned and lived in by the Wurundjeri people. The built form of a lot of the projects around is obviously industrial in nature, and this serves as there's a lot of sort of lack of engagement of the street of that, but inherently there's a beauty and a human scale and tactility to that built form. There's a lot of brickwork, particularly red brickwork, which appears. There's obviously masonry laneways and metalwork and exposed slab edges and lintels. And as inevitably this area changes, as Melbourne City Council would like to see, then we'd like to still celebrate that history of the site, and so it's not forgotten over time. So our response, the sort of planning scheme, as you can see, predominantly around is the single story. This is the first to really go up at this height in that area. The planning scheme does take into consideration some of the taller sort of urban development around and the warehouses and so on like. So there was a height limit of maximum 8 stories, 6 preferred, but 8 with a community addition and benefit. The planning scheme also has a 15-metre height limit, so we are, as you can see, setting that precedent. So 4-story podium and then 4-story upper form. As we went through the planning process, and we were the first one, there was a lot of workshopping with council and one particular objector, so there was further setbacks to the upper forms over time. So the architecture really starts with horizontal articulation, expressing those slab edges and taking cues from the industrial language. And then an insertion of brick piers within that. And that starts to set up a rhythm and a scale on the street, which currently does not exist with the warehouses. And these brick piers, they are angled, so they start to then, they protect the glazing and internal exterior spaces from the northern and western sun. They start to provide acoustic relief and guide view lines from that transportation infrastructure. And then they start to have this ability to have integrated landscaping and planting. And that is one of the key parts to the project, is its contribution to urban ecology. And this was the community benefit contribution of the project. Obviously, its proximity to the Moonee Ponds Creek, and the intention was to have an extension of that. So there's 700 square metres of the city view real estate on the roof, which is dedicated to essentially the birds and the bees. There's no human accessibility up there on that rooftop, other than for maintenance and for research teams. And then bringing that down, so the facade acts as essentially a stepping stone habitat up the building. So the planters not only have sort of ground covers and creep, but they've also got substantial trees and double height foliage within that. So essentially connecting the Moonee Ponds Creek and the reserve along the street trees and up this building up and occupying that rooftop. So we worked closely with Sydney Design Collective and Jugglify to specify species that would encourage pollination and of both pollinators and of predatory insects, and then hence the birds as well. They're predominantly indigenous species, but there are some exotic species in there to extend that flowering cycle, and it's that rooftop in action. The ground floor plan, you can see here the symmetry of that floor plan. So there's separate cores, separate EOT, separate entrances, all the fire services are all separate and independent. There's a central entranceway, and that becomes broader because of that, the need to have two separate entrances, but it actually then becomes more welcome and allows us to have double height space and trees incorporated into that. They did agree on sharing a substation, which is something. And then stackers to the rear. There's small spaces at around about 80 square metres in those shared spaces that face onto Bruce Street and open up onto that street. One of those is currently used as a co-working space, so start to bring activation to that street edge. So typical floor plan, about 426 square metres per floor plate. It is non-load bearing. They can actually share that space, but also obviously split it up to be strata titled independently. And you can start to see every floor plate has external spaces on that terrace. And one of the great benefits, obviously, of having the landscaping is to purify that air through there as well.
Sorry, the time? Can you summarise it?
I'll quickly summarise that. So this is the beautiful photography by Rory Gardner. And you can start to see the street rhythm, the double height spaces, incorporation of the planting. And internally, one of the benefits I've really seen of this is the glare reduction as well, because it's not just about solid heat gain mitigation in commercial buildings, but also the quality of the light and consistency of that light. Okay.
Thank you.